maps of Western Europe in the next few days.
You ask what is our aim? Victory at all costs.
You're suggesting we're somehow winning. We're not.
Is it true we're in full retreat?
All our forces are now in Dunkirk, where we cannot reach them.
They're pushing us into the sea.
There is the question of peace talks between ourselves and Germany.
Europe is still...
Europe is lost.
That child.
You have the full weight of the world on your shoulders.
How many men will survive?
Go to the people. Tell them the truth.
We must rouse to an heroic resistance.
There's nothing patriotic in fighting to the end. Now is the time to negotiate.
When will the lesson be learned? You cannot reason with a tiger when your head is in its mouth. I take full responsibility.
Really?
Really? Yes, sir. It is the reason I sit in this chair.
Be yourself.
Myself.
We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender! For without victory, there can be no survival.
Aloha. This is Trinidad the Island Man, your Island Man, coming to you live once again from beautiful Hawaii here on the island of Oahu, bringing you, yes you, the best movie reviews on the entire island. And, well, last night, Thursday night, opening night for the wide release of The Darkest Hour. Now this stars Gary Oldman doing a fantastic impersonation representation of Winston Churchill back at the very beginning of, Britain's war with, Nazi Germany. Now, I don't say World War II because World War II hadn't started yet, as the United States had not yet, decided to enter the war. So remember our rating scale. Shock a thumbs up. It's good to see. I recommend it. Shock a thumbs down. It's bad to see it. It's junk. And, well, I have to say that Gary Oldman does a wonderful performance in this. And overall, it is a highly interesting, incredible movie. So, yes, it is a shock a thumbs up. I do recommend seeing this. Especially if you had already seen Dunkirk earlier back in 2017. This, The Darkest Hours, and Winston Churchill, portrayed by Gary Oldman, it takes place right at the beginning of Nazi Germany's push into Western Europe. Essentially, it begins in May of 1940. Remember, the United States did not enter World War II until 1941, December 7th of 1941. So this is well over a year earlier when, thanks to then Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain, the British Empire, along with most of Europe at that time, had gotten guarantees and promises from Hitler that he would not invade into Poland and thus the other countries of Western Europe. Those were dashed as the Blitzkrieg moved over Poland, moving into Belgium, Paris, France falls, Belgium falls, and thus 300,000 British troops are stuck there at Dunkirk. Especially if you had seen that movie, you'd know the predicament they're in. Now, although Dunkirk is mentioned, it is a focus of this movie. It focuses totally on Winston Churchill, portrayed by Gary Oldman, as he comes to power as Neville Chamberlain, resigns as Prime Minister, having been fooled by Hitler, needing a tough leader at this time. The British government chooses Winston Churchill. And, you know, they say that great moments in history have a way of choosing great men. And he was definitely the man for that hour, as no one else, you know, could have pulled Britain and England together at that time, coming up with the help of, you know, his naval aides to launch the civilian boats to save those 300 men at Dunkirk. Any other person at that time, as several others were up for Prime Minister, you know, were looking to just simply surrender to Germany and thus, you know, spare those men, hopefully get them back, and, you know, at best keep British independence as Hitler took over the rest of Europe. You know, and there were even mentions of possibly the British monarchy, you know, moving to Canada at that time and ruling in exile due to this. However, it was the strength of Winston Churchill, very well portrayed again in this movie, that you know, culminated the British people, gave voice to the British people, to its leaders, you know, giving them the strength, the knowledge that the British people were strong and did not want to surrender, that the British, you know, Hail Britannia would, you know, stay on and fight to the very end. And that is what Winston Churchill had decided to do. You know, and this movie goes through the pain of the decisions that he had to make in order to save those 300,000 at Dunkirk. He had to pretty much commit, you know, 4,000 British troops of reserve garrison to their death in order to stall and delay the Germans' advance there at Dunkirk, to give the civilian boats time to rescue the other troops. So, you know, it is an incredible take on history, portrayed incredibly well. There is talk of Oscar nomination for Best Actor for Gary Oldman in this, and since he had been a long time, you know, there in Hollywood, I think, you know, he's definitely got a chance, as his due, well, his, you know, his due has come due, I guess, as he does give a wonderful portrayal. All his characters that he's played, you know, all the way back from Dracula, even, was fantastic and incredible. He always brings his A game no matter what the part. And I think this is his time to get an Academy Award, at least nomination, possibly walk away with it. Bad news for Hugh Jackman and The Showman, unfortunately, but, you know, in Hollywood, in showbiz, them's the breaks. So definitely go ahead and check out this movie when you can, especially, like I said, if you had seen Dunkirk and you enjoyed Dunkirk, you know, this tells the other side of the story. This tells what happens to make those decisions to rescue those people come to light, whereas maybe you were, you know, too much of a focus on just the individual soldiers there. I found that I really enjoyed this movie, and I recommend it to you. Shock a thumbs up all the way. All right, thank you so much. This is Trinidad the Island Man, your Island Man, saying aloha.